TellyCast.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to another TellyCast. I'm in Austin, Texas this week for the South by Southwest Conference and Festivals. I'm digging into what's next in TV and content with my guests, director of new documentary film Lions of Mesopotamia, Lucian Reed, Marianne Carpentier from Newen Studios, Electrify media partners Ian Shepherd, and Taewon from metaverse platform Glinda. They're coming right up on this week's TellyCast. My first guest on this week's South by Southwest special is Lucian Reed, director of Lions of Mesopotamia, which is a movie premiering tonight at the festival. Lucian,
right.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us, first of all, about Lions of Mesopotamia, because it's an amazing story.
Sure.
And it's a number of years, actually, since the event of the Iraqi national football team. But talk us through the genesis of the project and what the project's about.
So the film, in short, the film is about the victory of the Iraqi national football team in the 2007 Asian Cup, right? So kind of one rung down from the World Cup, one of the Continental Cups. But kind of more than that is really kind of the history of Iraq, essentially from after the Gulf War all the way through 2007, which is the sectarian civil war during the American occupation, right? And it kind of reframes all of that history through the lens of the experience of members of the players who went on to become the national team in 2007. So it covers sort of post Saddam, post Gulf War, Saddam, U.S. invasion, occupation, the Civil War, and then it kind of ends after the Cup.
So how did you get involved in the project then? How did you discover this story?
Well, there's sort of the short answer and the longer answer. The shortest answer is that in 2019, a friend of mine who was an American vet who'd been in Iraq working on a story about other U.S. vets going to fight ISIS up in Mosul, right? And he was there and he was kind of working and reporting and kind of in the classic Tom Friedman-y way, was in a taxi cab with somebody, and the driver was like, "What are you doing?" And he told me what he was doing. And the guy was like, "That's not a story. I'll tell you a story. And the story is 2017. That's the most important story." And so my friend Adam kind of was talking to other people and came back like kind of on fire about this story. He spent a little time trying to get it off the ground, was having some difficulty. He came to me and I was like, "Give me this movie." And the reason is that I had actually worked as a photojournalist basically in Iraq from 2004 to 2008 or 9. So I was in Iraq during that time. Iraq is a very important part of my life, continues to be a very important part of my life. And so I was like immediately drawn to the story, particularly because I had spent most of my time over there with the U.S. military sort of, heroicizing. There's kind of this idea that you cannot take an unheroic war picture, right? Like it just kind of naturally does that. It's problematically. And so I'd spent all this time basically turning the U.S. military into heroes, for good, bad, or indifferent reasons. And this film gave me an opportunity to like turn that and to really center the Iraqis as the heroes in a really inspirational story and really tell a story that goes up, kind of is totally counter in a way to, the traditional narratives about Iraq and about the Middle East. These guys, were patriots and athletes and really like wanted to do something for their country and really, kind of went through, a decade of, really difficult experiences to finally be able to do this thing. And, you talk to many Iraqis who were alive at the time, kind of aware of the time, they'll tell you like, that is the most important thing. That's the most important story. And really, they were the ones that ended the Civil War. The fact that they did that and that we all came together to support them doing that was a thing that showed us in that moment that like, we're Iraqis first, all our other identities are second, and we can really kind of pull the country back together. And if you look at the numbers, you'll see that the bombings and civilian deaths, after the Cup kind of, there's a marked diminishment of death and conflict.
And so this is a classic story of sport overcoming differences in religion and culture and all of those aspects. So tell us about how that manifested itself. How did the team come together and how did they overcome these real differences?
Well, I mean, the film is kind of in 3 acts, and the end of each act is a tournament essentially, right? So 2000 Youth Cup that was played in Iran 2004 Olympics and 2007 with the Asian Cup. And kind of each point along the way, the team that became ultimately the team in 2007 kind of came closer and closer and built relationships and kind of built on momentum, sort of overcoming one obstacle after another after the other. And, they very early on, I mean, one of the players, Ahmed Manajid, talks about when they were youth players and they were kind of traveling around, Europe primarily at a time when Iraq was under sanctions and all, average Iraqis couldn't go anywhere and do anything. And they're outside of the country seeing like people are living normal lives out here. Like, why can't our people lead normal lives, right? Why is it like we come back and we tell people about the food we've eaten or the hotels we stay in, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's possible, right? And so at the time, they're like 17 years old. And, from that kind of that experience, they're like, we need to do something for our country. And unfortunately, they were offered one opportunity after the other to be, fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately because they were the right people for it, unfortunately because, Iraq was continuing to suffer through, waves of violence and conflict. I mean, still is. It's much better now, but, through their football careers, there was just kind of one obstacle after the other that they were able to kind of get past, and by getting past it, inspire their country.
So tell us about the making of this remarkable story then, in terms of how the film came together.
Well, I mean, the first thing obviously was to get the trust of the players to participate, which was a challenge. The story is, it's like the most important story of their lives, right? And they did not want to have, when the film was finally done, they wanted to know when they went into it that at the end of it, it was gonna reflect their experience, and it was gonna be, it was gonna be quality essentially. And so they hadn't participated really with anybody in any meaningful way for whatever it is, a decade and a half, right? And so there was a long kind of conversation and sort of trust building around that. The fact that, in particular, I had spent so much time there was helpful, right? I mean, it was, in a weird way, it was like soldiers coming back together for a reunion years after the war, in that we were all in the same place at the same time, undergoing very different but very similar, very difficult circumstances, and kind of sit around a table and be like, oh, you were in Fallujah then? I was in Fallujah then, that kind of thing. And so that was certainly helpful. But, like I said, it took time. And then ultimately, when they finally kind of agreed, we did a whole trip over just to kind of sit and talk, right, basically. And they finally decided that they wanted to participate, because it's only 90 minutes long. We couldn't have all, 17 players in the film or whatever. So there's kind of a core of them. And then, 2 subsequent trips, we filmed part of it in Erbil and then part of it in Baghdad. It's primarily interviews, although we were also able to go and film a Iraqi premiere match, which was quite exciting. Like, I didn't really expect, I mean, it's like, there's flares and, balloons and like, all these things, right, that you'd expect to see anywhere in a big match. I didn't really expect that, right? So we got to do that and some other, kind of, various scenes and things. But it's primarily those 2 interviews, and they're quite long. I mean, Nashad Akram, who is was the sort of the star midfielder, I interviewed him for like 17 hours over the course of 3 days in 2 different cities to get through all this history. Because of course it's, it's like 15 years of history or whatever, right? So there's a lot to talk about. And we learned afterwards that they had been, in preparation for our interviews, they had been getting together to like basically jog each other's memories about everything, right? Because it's been a while, right? So, but when it came to it, I mean, they were incredibly eloquent and just full of like anecdotes. There were times when I was working with a translator, obviously, because the film is essentially all in Arabic. They all speak English, but I was like, hey, this is your story. It should be in your language. It's the people who are going to care about it the most are the people in your country. So I'm not going to have you speak my language and then translate it back into your language for it to be shown in your country, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so there'd be times when they'd be and I had an incredible translator who's like a improvisational, musician who can just keep, minutes and minutes and minutes of words in his mind because of this kind of innate ability. So they'd be telling a story and I'd be like, what's happening? Like, or do I have a movie? Like, I ask a question and then you talk for like 6 minutes. And then, the translation would come back and I'd feel kind of a sigh of relief. And then I got into the edit and had it all like translated, in the Iraqi dialect and all that, and was just blown away really by like what I had, the detail and the eloquence of what they had been sharing along the way. So And then, 6 months of editing, 8 months of editing, all of that. My editor, Lucas Harger, is amazing. Really the film, frankly, it exceeded sort of all the expectations that I had going into it in terms of the power of it and the eloquence of it and the richness of it. It's like 90 minutes long, but it is super dense and super fast. The film really moves.
And tell us about the distribution plans then for the film, because it's an amazing story, but, some may say it's niche. But, the real message, as I mentioned earlier on, is about, sport transcending all of these differences and an incredible time. Tell us about the distribution strategy.
Well, the strategy is to have it eventually. That's partly why we're here at South by, is to show it to the world. The premiere is tonight. World premiere is tonight. In terms of it being niche, it's like niche in different ways in different places, right? So in the U.S., because so much of it, because we have such a long history there, right? And because, a fair amount of it involves the American invasion, the American occupation, there's kind of a Iraqi history of the war kind of, lane to put it in here, right? And particularly because it's been 20 years now, which is kind of apparently the sort of sweet spot around kind of contemporary history, that's this thing happened and I can't quite remember how it worked, but I remember it sort of, and that's what happened, those kind of documentaries, right? So that kind of thing. Clearly in the Middle East, it's, I showed it to the players, right? And they were blown away because they had never seen, not just because of themselves, but because they had never seen any, the concept of a documentary of that style was far beyond their expectations, right? So I believe it has a market there because it really is you've been seeing Western people put in these films and made into heroes for however long, we're doing it for you now. Here it is, right? So there's that kind of place for it. And again, it's it's an Iraqi national treasure. Everybody's going to watch it. And then there's this kind of the football world, right? Which is global, right? And so whether that's in Europe or, wherever. So we're hoping between all these sort of three things. The fact that it'll be the likelihood that it'll be in Iraq and it'll be kind of in the Gulf, it's going to happen, right? It's just going to happen. How that kind of fits in with, these other markets and other places is another question. To me, I want everybody to see it everywhere, right? But as long as it has meaningful, the first necessary step is that it has meaningful distribution there for the people who really need to see it. And it's particularly with everything that's going on there in the region and in Iraq and all over, to have a positive story really is people are looking for it.
Yeah, and so you're looking for distribution then, essentially, at South by after tonight's premiere. Yeah,
we've held it back basically. We haven't gone to Apple. We haven't all of the big streamers. We want it to be complete, and we wanted it to have a nice festival outing and do it that way. So we haven't rushed into it either. As anybody listening or watching this knows, the market the last 2 years or whatever has been awful, I think maybe is a word you could use.
I think you could use that word, yeah.
So also we didn't want to rush into failure, and we didn't want to rush it out in a way where it wasn't, kind of properly presented.
Well, Lucian, thank you very much for joining me. Good luck with the movie. Good luck with the premiere tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
My next guest on this week's South by Southwest special is Marianne Carpentier from Newen Studios. Marianne, hello. How are you doing?
Hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Austin.
Very nice city. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, you've got an amazing role, Chief Innovation and Technologies Officer. And tell me what you're doing, first of all, over at South by Southwest. What are you looking for? What are you looking to learn or see what everybody else is doing?
I was saying to someone yesterday that I'm here to breathe the future, sense, smell, breathe, to catch the new trends and to see what are the things coming and to avoid the bad things and to choose to go to the good things. So I'm really here to let it go and I'm not filling up my days with meetings. I have some, but not too much, just because to let it happen and having the choice to change my direction. If I see something very interesting, then I go and I could stay at a conference that was not planned at all. And the opposite, I could quit conference, which is not interesting at all. So yeah, this is really, really a place to be. Definitely. Yeah.
So tell us about your role then at Newen Studios. Tell us about what that means in practice.
Well, my perimeter is very large because I'm really a transverse unit. Okay. I'm a foresight and innovative and strategic unit. So I'm working with all the different business units or department that we have. Could be support functions like the legal or the human resources or digital transformation, or of course the producers, the distributors, or the animation, or any kind of business unit we could have. And then with this business unit, what I'm trying to do is, because I am not myself the hands in the work, I would say, I can have time to figure out what's coming next. And I have some time space in my brain to think about, what we could do. And on top of that, I have my director and my president. These are people that understand that innovation is something you need to fail or have the right to fail if you want to innovate. So they let me try things. So I'm just coming to them and saying, hey guys, we need to put our foot in the metaverse. We need to do something with that. I don't know what. I'm just opening their minds and just like I'm planting seeds in their brain, and then it grows alone. And then they come back and they say, oh, I think we could use the metaverse for that, for example. And I have a case right now because my customers, my clients, they are still in quarantine and we are blocked with that and we can't sell them anything through Teams because it's boring. Do you think you could create something? We could organize meeting inside? Yes, of course I could do that. So let's do it. And so I'm just building a guerrilla team and I'm doing it. And then I'm finding some financing, because it's innovation, so you could finance it. And then I build it. And usually it's some small projects. So I could be very agile to build them very quickly to respond to a market or to a need of a very specific market need. And then we try it. If it doesn't work, we don't care. So usually it works. That's pretty cool. Usually it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just kind of a explorer of new way to make business, of new way to produce, or new way to make content.
Well, that's great, because the TV industry isn't necessarily known for being that innovative, really, and having that bravery to say, try this and fail and move on. We'll learn from it. That that mindset has very much been born out of the new digital industry and digital producers and creators.
Yeah, it's not that they are not brave. They are, but they have figures to deliver. That's the point, and not me. So because they have figures to deliver, they will not choose the risky path. They will choose the known path.
Yeah.
And same for the broadcasters, as actually the traditional broadcasters. They don't want to break the rules that are working. They have advertising, and they know that the advertising, they need something for the widest range possible. And so they are looking for the widest audience possible. I'm not working on several million budgets projects, so it's not too risky neither.
But you're working, you mentioned the metaverse. You've got a metaverse project which is live now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we decided to create it for the distribution because they wanted to organize meetings with their Asian clients during Cannes Film Festival in 2022. And they did. And so they met their customer inside. We created a Zeppelin, a virtual Zeppelin, and we put it in the sky of Cannes. So when you enter our virtual space, you're in a Zeppelin above the Croisette, which is super cool because you can go with your avatar on the terrace and you can watch the Croisette and the boat under. And so this is super cool. And actually, because it's virtual, then we organized a feature so we could be in the sky of London, of Berlin, of Paris. So we can be above BBC or above the Eiffel Tower. So this is very funny, and it's really designed to work. So you have exactly the same features than in a Teams or a Zoom. So you can sit with your avatar and your customer as an avatar in an office or in a meeting rooms, and you can have a screen that you could share your content on, and then you just talk very freely. There is no goggles, no mask. It's just a connection through an internet. And then we thought about, okay, what we can do now that we have this space. So what could we do? So we organized a place to make a demo of all our content, and we organize new kind of rooms that are more made for creativity. For example, we are working on a series, which is still a project right now, but we designed the room with all the assets of the series we are thinking about. So if you want to create a series about, I don't know, the 8th century, then it is the 8th century with all the furnitures and tables and chairs from that period. And your avatar could change his clothes and put the Marie Antoinette style. So that's funny. And then we made some experimentation because we are working more and more with co-producers or partners from everywhere in the world. So it's hard to meet together. And in a virtual space, when you meet, it's just like you have this sensation of being at the same place, which is not the same at all when you organize a video call.
Zoom is very much, there's still a barrier there.
Yeah, it's just like a talkie-walkie. Zoom, it's on-off. You talk, I talk. In a metaverse, when you talk, it's completely free, and you can even cut the other when he's speaking. And it's completely natural. So after 5 minutes, you forget that you are in a metaverse. You forget what your avatar is looking for. Actually, you don't care at all what he's looking for. So at the beginning, it's always funny to say, I could be thinner, or I could be, I could change my hairstyle and I could wear sunglasses, etc. But actually, very quickly, you don't care anymore. And then you really feel things between the people and you. So it's not only
audio.
the voice.
I mentioned audio is very important.
Yeah, audio is important, but not only. You have something else happening. I can't explain it, but the people I work with told me that this is the neuroscience that explains that.
You think it's more genuine? You mean the conversation is more genuine and
sincere?
Sincere, yeah.
Yeah. And in terms, and because of that, we organized experimentation. So I hired someone in the metaverse, for example. I did all my interviews in the metaverse to choose my last 3 candidates, okay? I had a very super cool meeting with a young lady, which was really interesting. And we talked about 1 hour, and we had a lot of ideas fuzzing in my brains, etc., talking with her. And I was like, oh, she's super cool. And then I got another guy whose resume was super interesting, but he was a little bit more conventional, and it was like he was reading questions, and I had another feelings, but I chose them as the final candidates. And then I met them in real life. And the young girl, she was super shy in front of me in the real life. And she couldn't deliver any words. And she was like very conventional and I was like, she's not the same person that I talk with. And the guy, it was the opposite. He was super comfortable, very fluent and he talked about a lot of things, and he was complimenting me, and he was super comfortable in a real meeting. But in the virtual world, he had no ideas. He had no conversation. So I chose what I was feeling. I chose my gut feeling, and I chose the girl, and she's my best recruitment ever. And she's super smart. And yes, she's shy because she's young and she's a lady, and she has the imposter syndrome, big like this. And the guy, not at all. So I was like, okay. So in the metaverse, all you feel is your gut feeling, and your intuition is bigger than your rational mind. So this is interesting in terms of creativity. When you put a producer and a director and a writer and a marketing director and the acquisition director in a room, they don't speak the same language. But if you cut the rational parts and you let all the intuition and then only the creative part is happening inside. So when they are working on a project, they are talking the same language. They are just talking creatively speaking, and they are not talking figures and targets, etc. So this is super interesting because this is changing the way we are working, and actually it's adding more human things than I thought, because I was scared by cutting all the human things in the virtual, and actually this is the complete opposite. It's bringing more human things. So yeah, this is strange, and this is hard to put people inside. They don't want to go there. I mean, the young, yes, they want, but the people of my age, they don't want to go there. They want to have real meetings, etc. In the same time, this is the same people that are using all the big amount of data and analyzing everything, and they don't follow their guts or their intuition anymore for a long time. From the very beginning, we organized some meetings with the young people from the suburbs in the south of France, and we are organizing a masterclass with actors we have on our shows, and they are talking together. And I don't know, it's just like the first time I was seeing the 50 years old actor telling to young people, you need to read Molière. Who's Molière? Oh, you don't know Molière, my God. And it was so funny because they were it was easy to discuss, and the actors, they forgot the images for the first time of their life, I think. So they were the real person they are, really the real one. Doesn't care anymore about what he looks like. So he's really who he is.
Interesting.
So he's not speaking the same, he's not really talking the same way he's talking when he's in front of a camera or in front of people. And the young, they were terrifying by the idea of meeting a very known actor or famous actor. And after 5 minutes, they forgot it was an actor because you have an avatar.
It's a leveler, right? It creates a level playing field and a deeper conversation.
Socially, genderly, diversity, I don't know if it's correct. It's breaking all
barriers down, the stereotypes, basically.
Yeah, and we do have that, all of us. So if you are in a metaverse, you forget that.
And are you using this all the time now? I mean, is this a regular tool that you're using at Newen Studios for across the business?
We are not using it daily, but we organize that kind of events, just like masterclass, or we have a pitch contest that we are organizing each year.
Do you see a time when regular meetings, internal meetings and external meetings will be happening using the metaverse at Newen Studios?
For example, I'm pushing for that, but it's hard. It's still hard to push the people to go there because this is not something. They don't think about the metaverse first.
No.
So they think first we meet together, and if it's not possible, then we do a Teams, and if it's not possible. But there is a case when it is really more comfortable to be in the metaverse. It is when you have part of the team in presential, in real life, and part of the team in home office, for example. Then doing a meeting like this, it's disgusting. It's horrible because people together, they are talking together, and people abroad or at home, they feel that they are not inside the meeting. They feel like they are rejected.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to take.
It's a shared space, basically.
Yeah. So then with my team, we decide that when we are in this configuration, there is someone which is not here, and then we choose the metaverse because it's everybody at the same level.
Interesting. And you mentioned AI, obviously, and it's the talk of the festival. There's still quite a few maybe more old school or older school kind of approaches to that at the moment. You know, are we going to lose jobs? You know, that conversation is happening. But at Newen Studios, you're using AI already, aren't you, in a lot of your soaps and a lot of your productions? Tell us about that.
Yeah, actually, we are using AI since 2018, I think. But AI, not generative AI. But during the quarantine, we used generative AI to create a deep fake of an actress who was at COVID, and we had the choice to cut a role and replace her by another actress and reshoot all the sequences she already shooted. Or we choose another actress who was similar to her, and we just shoot the two sequences. We had to close an episode, and we changed the faces of the new actress. And the two actresses were okay for that. So we modelized the face of the first actress, and we shoot the 2 sequences with the new ones, and then we replace our face with the actress. And actually,
and both of them got paid?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the first one did not get paid for the 2 sequences she did not shoot, but she kept a role, actually. So it was much more interesting because it was a long-term role, and it was just the beginning of her arrival on the series. So she wanted to keep her job for a long period of time. But she was okay that we use her images and modelized her face. But we are not the owner of her face. We just did it once, just for this occasion, and everybody was shouting at me, we are not going to do that. This is a pirate technology. We are not going to do that. This is dangerous. And actually, everybody was so happy to do that because it was less cheaper than reshooting everything or shutting the shooting for 2 weeks, the time that she had her COVID and came back. So it was very useful. This year, we want to play with the tools to make things. So I don't know how we will do that, because we need to clarify the rights, legal part before doing anything, but I'm pretty sure we will do it. I don't know yet how, but we have plenty of different solutions. Of course, we want to protect our talents. We want to protect our writers, our graphic designers. We want to work with human creative artists. That's what we want to do. So you need to control, coordinate, organize, and it's more like on this point that we need to be very careful.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you are an expert in your job, then you can use the AI really more efficiently than if you are not. So,
to do your job better.
Yeah, and this morning the conference on AI was saying exactly that. The people that will use AI properly or with efficiency are the people that have a brain, first of all. So they need to have a criticism brain. They need to be curious. They need to express themselves. They need to write. So they need to have vocabulary. So they need to be properly raised people. If you didn't went to school and want to use an AI, you will probably generate some bad things. Not interesting.
You need to be an informed person. You need to be an expert in your own area.
Definitely.
To create much more value.
That's what I see. So that's why I'm not scared by that, because I'm just saying, okay, the people that are experts, they will bring their expertise in the AI way to use it.
Marianne, thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating speaking to you.
Thank you.
And really exciting what's going on at Newen Studios. We'll keep an eye on that and hopefully speak to you again very soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
My next guest on this week's South by Southwest special is Ian Shepherd from Electrify Video Partners. Welcome to Austin, Texas.
Yes, here we are. Blue sky outside.
It is. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
Really interested to hear more about you. So, first of all, tell us about Electrify Video Partners and what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. So Electrify Video Partners, we invest in and we scale established creator businesses. So what that means is that we've raised a load of funding and we're buying majority stakes in established YouTube channels, and we're helping these creators to grow their business and take it to the next level. So what we typically see is that a number of these creators, they've been working on the platform for a long time. They've built a very profitable business, but they've got to a ceiling where they don't know how to take it to the next level. Or perhaps sometimes they're burnt out from, producing content for the algorithm and they want to take a step back, but there is no means for them to do so. So we come in, we buy a stake in the business, but we're operators and we grow the business with them. We've made 5 investments over the last 2 years. The first was in an astronomy channel called Astrum. And in the space of 2 years, we've more than doubled the revenue and the profitability of that business. But crucially, we've taken what was a business run by one individual, somebody that did the research, the script writing, the editing, the production of the YouTube channel. And we now have a team of 7 people producing more content and really growing the Astrum brand beyond YouTube.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so this is really interesting, the sort of finances of the creator economy coming through, because we've seen, 2 things you mentioned there, burnout, which is obviously an issue for creators, keeping on that hamster wheel of creating new, more and more content and relying on algorithms to generate their income. But it's a really interesting time that the creator economy is growing and growing. I mean, how do you see finance going in the future of the creator economy? Because it's very difficult for creators purely to rely on advertising revenue through the major platforms, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think one of the things that we've seen is that there was a big boom for the creators through advertising and a real gravy train that they were riding in terms of producing content and being paid handsomely for it, both in terms of AdSense revenue on YouTube, but also sponsorship, inventory and influencer marketing. But it's just now more and more competitive. You have more creators on the platform and where we are in the economy in 2024, just brands aren't spending in the way that they were before. So it's really crucial that these creators are building sustainable businesses, diversified businesses that aren't reliant upon one platform and the algorithm or one revenue stream. So we're really looking at these great businesses that they've built, but wanting to take them to the next level. And to give it a bit of context, I spent a lot of my career working for traditional media companies like Disney, where we built franchises. And what we're thinking about is how do we take Veritasium, which is a channel that we invested in, one of the leading science brands on YouTube, and take Veritasium from a YouTube brand and turn it into a global franchise around science.
So it's not just about investment and helping them with finances in the short term. It's about brand extension, right? Outside of the pure video concept, it's maybe about taking a creator on live tours or merchandising or brand extensions, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the key things to get across is that we're owner operators. We're not financiers that are buying a stake in a business, allowing the creator to get on with it and checking in every quarter. We're in the trenches working with them to build the business. And the way we think about it is across 4 different levers for growth. So the first is the content on YouTube. That is the foundation for the business, for the creators that we're investing in. And typically they are the bottleneck to producing more content. They have a limited production team, sometimes just themselves, and they can only produce, 1 video a week, 2 videos a month, and that's the capacity. So we're thinking, well, how can we help them hire dedicated resource, script writers, editors, graphic designers to be able to put out more content for more AdSense revenue and more sponsorship inventory. So the first thing we do is scaling the production teams. The second thing we're thinking about is they've built this great brand with a large library of content on YouTube, but how do you take that same content on YouTube and repurpose it onto other platforms? So we think, how do we syndicate it onto other social platforms, but also on fast TV and OTT type services? But then it's not just syndicating what's already there. It's coming up with a forward-facing production strategy for content on other platforms. And so, for example, with TikTok, we're really seeing a huge growth in our Veritasium science brand on TikTok and exploring a distribution channel that the creator just didn't have time for before. The third lever for growth that we think about with our investments and scaling these channels is the ancillary revenue streams associated with the brand. So that could be consumer products, it could be courses, it could be apps, it could be newsletters. But again, how do we take Astrum, one of the leading astronomy channels on YouTube, and reach that audience in other ways through newsletters and courses? And so we're proactively working with, the best in class to help us to monetize the brand on other platforms. And then the fourth thing is really around leveraging data. And there's an amazing amount of data on social media consumption. And certainly, if I think of YouTube in the first instance, YouTube Studio is incredibly granular in terms of the data, not just the views of a video, but the retention curve for every single video, where the consumers click away from that and how that compares versus, competitor videos. And if I think back to my early career of the TV world and Barb ratings and just, a very, very broad brush approach to measuring consumption.
Did people watch it or not?
Exactly.
And maybe for how long they watched it, and that's it, right?
Exactly. Whereas now we just have this amazing data on the performance of every single video. And we've hired 3 data scientists who are really using machine learning and building over and above just on the great data that YouTube Studio provides us to help us think about optimizing the videos that are there. And when I say optimizing, we're thinking about how can we change the title and the thumbnail of an existing piece of content that perhaps hasn't reached the audience that it could, or how do we look at ideas for new videos and look at topics that are performing well or topics that haven't been covered, and supporting the creators with that.
But it's also about how you construct the video as well, isn't it? Because what I've learned on my few weeks on YouTube and playing with an incredibly addictive YouTube studio, because you can spend hours in there.
Yeah, it
is, really thinking about search and thinking about how YouTube, the world's second biggest search engine, can actually listen and surface your video through the actual content itself, not just the description and the metadata, but actually the content, and it's listening to what the script is on the video as well. So it's affecting the nature of the videos as well as everything else, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the YouTube algorithm is incredibly sophisticated and it's continuously evolving, and there are so many businesses and creators trying to really understand the direction and how to super serve it. As an example, one of the things that we're seeing at the moment is that YouTube really loves longer videos. And I think part of the reason why that's the case is that viewing on a TV set has really, really grown over the last 2 or 3 years. And in fact, if I think about our astronomy channel, 3 years ago, 20% of the views came from a TV device, whereas now 40% of the views of the channel or videos on the channel come from a big TV. And the viewing and the consumption of content on a TV is quite different to on a phone. So the average view duration, which is a key metric for us, is much, much longer on a TV set. And so for the YouTube as well, that's great because it's retaining the viewers and the advertising is higher. So yeah, the algorithm is amazing. And the way that YouTube describes it, which I think is a really fascinating way, is that YouTube isn't looking for an audience for your videos as a creator. YouTube is looking for videos for their audience. And so they want to find the best videos to put in front of their audience to retain their audience. And so as a creator or a creator business like ours, it really is about creating quality content that retains the viewer. And that's why it's such a great algorithm, I think.
And how about YouTube Shorts then? Because there's a little bit of opposites at play here, because YouTube Shorts is obviously 1 minute maximum videos, which can kind of serve as a trailer to your longer form content. But equally, YouTube is wanting you to watch videos for longer. So if you really lean into Shorts, then actually you could be damaging the performance of your overall channel, right? Because it's less watch time.
That's exactly right. In my business, I'm the biggest advocate for short form content. I see my kids consuming so much short form content. And I think as a medium, it's just never going to disappear. When I sort of saw YouTube roll out YouTube Shorts, I thought this is where we'll be able to have short form content and long form content. They'll combine very nicely together. We'll use short form content to promote long form content. New viewers that discover the channel through short form content will watch the long form content. Certainly what happened at the start was that they were almost totally independent audiences. I think both in terms of the demographics of the people that watch short form content, they wanted the videos in a different type of format, and they were looking for that instant gratification rather than a lean back sort of experience. And from an algorithm perspective, I think YouTube just spent a long time evolving it, and it just didn't get it right at the start. So much so that many creators deleted short form content that they had on their channels that they thought were negatively impacting the algorithm, and stopped producing shorts altogether. I think what we've seen in 2024, so really just in the last few months, is there has been some sort of change to the YouTube algorithm. And certainly from our perspective, we're seeing short form content performing better now, both as an individual video level and videos that are being monetized. I wouldn't say it's a lot of that we're making, but it's not insubstantial. But also there seems to be just a bit of a good amount of momentum that we have in our channels at the moment. And could it be short form content and that we're feeding the algorithm shorts and long form content? Perhaps, but certainly at the start, shorts were definitely a distraction, and very few creators benefited from YouTube Shorts. Whereas now I think, and even if you look at someone like Mr. Beast, who is the one that all creators look up to, he is producing short form content now as well. And so he must see some performance through that.
Yeah, and it also acts as a shortcut to the full length video as well. So that maybe the initial objective of YouTube launching that is maybe starting to come through a lot more now.
Yeah.
So tell us about the companies you invest in. What sort of channel or what sort of creator are you looking to invest in? Do they need to have an X number of followers? Presumably they have to have a certain amount of scale and ripe for taking to the next level. Tell us about who might be the ideal investment for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we started the business, we had this hypothesis that there were many, many creators out there that needed support like this. And some of that came from my own experience of working with creators day in, day out and seeing them struggling with growing the business. But we cast the net really wide to look at creators in lots of different genres of content. We were looking at gaming creators and automotive creators and educational creators. And through that process, we have done due diligence on more than probably 100 creator businesses over the last 2.5 years. And it's been fascinating to see how they're all run. For us, the key thing about our business is finding great investments, but also being able to add value to the creator. And if we think perhaps a business is fully optimized, then there isn't much value we can add. If perhaps a business is on the decline because it's past its peak, there isn't much value we can add. But if we see an under-optimized business, and typically where a creator is just stretched and not taking advantage of the opportunities, we like that because we can work with the creator to grow them. And we've got some great case studies already where we've done that. From a genre perspective, having cast the net wide, we're now really honing on factual entertainment. And we see so many great creators in that genre who have been just ticking along with their business, but they haven't grown them. They haven't been able to build them in the way that we see an opportunity. And so in terms of our business, there's almost 3 components. The first is, are there great channels to invest in? And when we invest, we pay the creator to buy a stake in their business. So for them, there's a payday. The second component that we bring is the value that we add to accelerate the growth of their business. But really the third component that's really important to us is that we're not just an investor, we're a media company, and we want creators to want to be part of Electrify Video Partners because of the sum of the parts is actually greater than just the individual investment. And so our focus for 2024 and beyond is really focusing on this factual content and establishing Electrify as almost a next generation discovery with the types of genres that we're focusing on. So science, technology, food, travel, these sorts of educational, knowledge sharing based content verticals.
Right. Okay. And so you said you've invested in 5 channels so far.
Yep.
By the time we get to the end of 2024, how many do you think you'll have invested in by then?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there's 2 ways that we look at this. One is the number of investments, so the number of channel brands and creators that we're investing in. The other way that we think about it, and this is more from a finance perspective, is just a deployment of capital and each deal is different and they are of different sizes. So hypothetically, we could make 2 large investments or 2 very large investments, or we could make 10 medium-sized investments. I'd like to think that by the end of 24, we will have made between 6 and 8 more investments. There's 3 that are pretty close at the moment. Obviously, when we're making these investments, we do a lot of due diligence in terms of understanding the performance of the business to this point for our partners. But also, it's about building a relationship with the creators. This isn't a transaction where we buy a stake and life continues. They now have a business partner. And so we want to build a good rapport with them. We want them to believe in the direction that we want to take their business. We want to hear from them and how we can support them. And that just takes time. And so a typical transaction will take at least 3 months where we're learning about their business, building a business case, and then doing the due diligence in the background.
Okay, that's really interesting. When it comes to the platform that these creators are on, is it mainly YouTube? Do they have to be based on YouTube? You know, if you've got a big TikTok creator or somebody who's really focused on Instagram and they're bringing interesting content to Instagram, would you consider them, or it's got to be YouTube?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is it's YouTube first. And the rationale for that is that we love the AdSense revenue. So YouTube have had this partner program for more than 15 years where they've shared the same 55% revenue share with creators over that period. And whilst the algorithm has evolved, that revenue share is consistent. And what that means is that when we're looking at these investments, we can look at the library of content, and we know that that will continue to generate revenue over time. And that's the foundation for the business that we're investing in. And so we're buying a catalog of content as part of the wider business. We can forecast how that should perform over time. That's the foundation. The trouble with Instagram and TikTok is that the majority of the ways that creators monetize that is through brand partnerships. And that's a one-off payment in time. And so a creator could have 100 brand partnerships over the course of 2 years, 100 videos. But there's nothing to say that the next video would have a brand partnership.
You can't forecast, right?
Exactly. We would be investing into the brand, which there is some value, but it doesn't come with that more passive, programmatic revenue stream, which is important when we're looking at the investment. However, that may change over time. So we may see, TikTok are talking a lot about their creator fund, which they're rolling out. The CPMs on that are much, much, much lower at this point in time. But I met with the team in LA in December, and it really felt like they're thinking about creators in the same way that YouTube were maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And there's a real desire, real recognition that they need to support the creators on the platform. So I'd love to believe that in the future, creators will be monetizing their TikTok content in a similar way, and we may be looking at them as investment opportunities. But really, at the moment, we're predominantly focused on businesses that have, see a large proportion of their revenue from YouTube, not exclusively, but a large proportion.
And then in the future, can you see yourself launching channels yourself and bringing in creators to run them for you? Is that your ultimate goal, or is it really just focused on partnering with existing creators who have got a great track record? How do you see the future?
Yeah, it's predominantly the latter. So we'd be thinking about just investing into great established creators and working with them to grow their business. There are opportunities that we see to leverage those brands to launch new channels. So, for example, Veritasium is one of the leading science brands on YouTube. The idea of spinning off a different version of Veritasium, it may be sort of more focused on geography or something like that. Hypothetically, that could be an idea where our business is working with the creator to launch something new or a podcast, but certainly starting something from scratch that's not our focus. That's not what we're looking to do at the moment.
Okay. And we're here in South by Southwest. What are you looking forward to most about the festival?
Yeah, well, I've known of South by Southwest for many years, having worked in the music industry and stuff before. I think what's interesting about South by Southwest this year is the first time they've actually had a creator economy track. So they're formally sort of saying there's a program of events for businesses in the creator economy. So I really wanted to come along to check that out. I think as well, the world is quite different post-pandemic to before. And we have a remote business. We have about 50 employees working in 17 different countries. And I spend every day in meetings with my colleagues and very often with prospective creators around the world virtually. And so the idea of meeting many of the people in the industry that I talk to virtually in person is really nice. And I think we were discussing it earlier, that the South by Southwest vibe is a lot more informal than a more sort of traditional conference. And so you can have some interesting conversations, both with people in your industry, but then also sort of people in adjacent industries that are here and just networking.
Ian, thank you so much for joining me this week. It's been really fascinating hearing about Electrify Video Partners. Best of luck with it, and have a great South by Southwest.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
My final guest is Taewon Su from Glinda, and it's always great when you come to South by Southwest and you look on the expo, on the shop, on the market floor, and you see really interesting new developments and new products that are coming to market and maybe just about to come to market, particularly within the content industry. And Glinda is one of those. Yes. So Taewon, tell us about Glinda and what it is and who it's for.
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me here. Okay, so Glinda is a metaverse content creation platform that includes everything for users to create, connect, and manage metaverse content and then they can connect the metaverse content to any platform, any system, any devices for their use.
Okay.
So I think that it is something that can empower users in the metaverse and democratize the metaverse world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to this point, the metaverse has kind of appeared, and maybe then receded out of the public discourse, but it feels now that it's now's the time that people are starting to adopt.
It's still a niche venue, limited on gaming and entertainment, right? And then a few metaverse worlds are occupied by big techs. But, we want the space to be open, dynamic, and interoperable, right? So to do that, to empower users to enjoy the metaverse freely, right? We need a solution, right? So Glinda, AIMI, that's a full name, or simply Glinda, that's a solution for the people to use and create metaverse freely.
Okay, so it's AI powered.
Yes.
And essentially, so let's talk about it in detail for perhaps people that haven't been on the metaverse yet and made that transition into metaverse. So essentially what you can do on Glinda is scan your own environment using your app. Yeah. So using an iPhone, for example, you can actually you can take a 3D image of your environment and you can place that in the metaverse in a few clicks without any knowledge of how to code.
Exactly. So it's a platform. So it's a cloud system that includes a lot of functions, right? So a combination of multiple software. So you can import 3D models, or you can scan your object to be a 3D model, or you can edit the model, or you can create models using generative AI with prompting, right? And also you can, edit the scene, which is a space, by placing your create 3D object in the space and then publishing across a lot of different platforms.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a one-stop shop for the metaverse users.
Okay. Yeah. And also as of particular interest, I think, to many of our viewers and listeners would be the fact that you can use media in here. So for example, on the wall over there, we can actually place this interview or any other video clips we want on the wall. So you can actually use that as a screening room. So if you're a broadcaster or you're a distribution company, you want to showcase all your newest content, you can do that.
Yeah, actually we are targeting B2B, the businesses users, right? And also B2B2C. So one important function there is you can embed any type of media into the space. And then you can make it a pop-up and any different, and you can make oral presentation. So when your client comes in, he can see all the different things automatically one by one, like pop-up, boom, boom, boom. So following the journey, provided from the space where you can see all the different things you want to show to the person.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so this platform is not yet in the market? You're in beta at the moment?
We are in the closed beta stage, and we are going to open beta version pretty soon, within a couple of months. Right. So you can be a test user.
Love to. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, I'd love to have a TellyCast episode in the metaverse. So let's do that. Yeah. Fantastic. Great. And so the company is South Korean. Is that correct?
Well, currently, let's see. Except one person, mostly. Okay. So they started to build this solution from 2021. Actually, we have a longer story. So we first met by circa 2014, and we had another startup about marketing virtual showroom. It was a failure because we were too early. And then they met the CEO here, and they created the scanning app, but it was not good on the market. So they make a pivot into make the metaverse creation platform. Right. So this is
okay. That's what many successful products do. They iterate and they change and they develop.
Exactly.
Not only due to technology, but also what the market demands.
It's a part of the journey. Yes.
And you personally, you're in Austin, is that right?
Oh yeah, I live in Austin.
Okay.
I'm a professor at Texas State. Right. Teaching marketing and entrepreneurship. Right. But, I jumped into the startup industry like 14 years ago and doing a lot of different things with the younger people and developers. And that's the best team I've known so far. So anyway, I'm enjoying working with them.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you said it's a B2B product. What are the markets that you're looking at then? What different sectors are you targeting?
Well, actually, we can cover most of the industry. High demand industry for affordable metaverse solutions. There are many. So, but there are multiple usages of solution to make like virtual showroom, virtual storefronts, virtual office, virtual classroom, virtual training site. So we can accommodate the things for every industry for those purposes.
Okay.
Yes.
So again, coming back to our core audience, which are digital content creators and TV production companies and television related businesses. So this is an opportunity for them, for example, to scan their sets or scan their locations and basically bring their locations into the metaverse and engage with consumers.
I never thought about how we can kind of satisfy the TV production field with Glinda, but, as long as they want, different virtual spaces and with a lot of different experience they want to create together with the viewers. So I think we can kind of meet their needs somehow. Yeah.
Well, it's really fascinating technology, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all develops. Thank you so much for joining me.
All right, thank you very much
on the show, and good luck with Glinda. And when were you saying a couple of months? You think when the product is rolling out into open beta?
We're targeting like May or June.
Yeah.
So that a lot of waiting future customers can use it. Yeah. We are working hard for that.
And you said something just before we came on camera, actually, just to finalise that I think is important to clarify for people, is that there are no programming skills whatsoever needed for this. So I think you termed it as the WordPress for the metaverse.
Yeah, we term that as accessibility. So it should be accessible to everyone. So we are using a lot of multifold AI technology, using generative AI. So you can create a space with prompting, just text, right?
Right.
But, it's not perfect for comprehensive solution for businesses.
Yeah.
So you should edit it.
Yeah.
And it requires human intervention to make it smooth, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, we are, heading for harmonized human-computer interaction based on Glinda. So people can make Glinda powered by AI technologies.
Yeah.
That's what we are. Yeah.
Okay. Taewon, thank you so much for joining me, and good luck.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this week's show. We'll be featuring more interviews from South by Southwest over the next few shows. And don't forget to subscribe to TellyCast on YouTube for exclusive content industry videos. You can find the link in the episode description, or just search TellyCast TV on YouTube and hit subscribe. We'll be back next week with Benjamin Field from Deep Fusion Films as we get into the ethics around AI in TV production. Until then, stay safe.